here in this dark corner. There's been a cluster of suicides on the George Washington carrier. And I know the Secretary has an ongoing effort to try to understand suicides. And he's looking at, I think, 8 different facilities. And you had said before that that list could grow. Are there any plans to look at ships? And do you think that ships provide unique circumstances that need to be understood when it comes to suicide?
Well, the Navy's still investigating these deaths, and so I don't want to get ahead of that, as you might understand. So let's put that aside for just a second. But each death is tragic in its own right, regardless of how. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the families and frankly the shipmates, because they're affected too. They're part of a sailor's family. I know that from experience. The Secretary's expectation for the IRC on suicide is that it will look across the force. So absolutely, he wants it to look at shipboard life, shipboard duty, just as well as duty in remote locations. Alaska has had this issue. He wants a broad scope and view of suicides across the force, so not just at installations, if you will. And certainly he would like that to include conditions of shipboard life. And I think, I've served at sea on ships. I've served on ships that were in shipyards. In each of those environments is challenging. I think we have to be a little humble when we're talking about suicide, and it's just human nature to want to point to something and say, well, that's the reason. It's this problem or this culture, or it's because the ship is doing this instead of that. And I think we have to be really careful jumping to those conclusions, because what compels an individual to take their own life is it's individual, and it's complex. And I think, as the Secretary has said many times, a sense of humility going into this is really, really important. So obviously, as we look across the force, we certainly want to look at things like command climate and culture and mission and op tempo, the tempo at which we're pushing people. All those things are stressors in life. Some of them could contribute to the problem of suicides, but again, it's a very individual thing. The other thing we want to do, Travis, is again, with humility, be willing to consider what we don't know and to talk to experts who are smarter about this than we are. We have terrific mental health professionals in the military, but there's people outside the ranks that in the private sector that really do focus in on this particular issue, and we want to avail ourselves of their knowledge and wisdom and be willing to, again, be humble about what we don't know and ask tough questions. When the Secretary was in Alaska, several months ago, he took time to sit with mental health professionals from the local university who specialized in issues surrounding suicide, and he found it very illuminating. Also very daunting, because they conveyed very clear to him how tough this is, an issue to wrap your arms around.
Do you know if the situation with the GW is going to be folded into this larger effort on suicides? Is it something that we're still waiting to see how it turns out?
Yeah, again, I don't want to get ahead of the Navy's investigation here. The IRC isn't really designed to look at a specific issue or a specific individual act of suicide. It's really designed to look across the force at the factors that compel an individual to take their own life, and what those factors are, and how we can, as an institution, how can we help mitigate those. Yeah, it's not designed on a particular incident. Yeah, John.
Thanks.